Alright guys, in this video we're going to be going over operating a skid steer and grading basics. So the first thing you're going to want to do, it's one of those things like really it just takes practice and just seat time. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. So when you first get in there, I mean, if you're good at video game stuff, it's like you just use your joysticks. Like the biggest thing you want to do is kind of start on a level surface and then just get used to like what happens as you push more pressure down on your bucket, how far it digs, and kind of go from there. So like what I like to do is I like to start flat and then I get my bucket level, and then as you're going, like you can tilt your bucket up and down, and that's kind of how you can adjust like your grade. And if like you're trying to slope things and stuff, you like get started in one area and then you just slowly work yourself back and forth. A lot of times most of your like dirt work's going to be done going forward. I kind of like to use the skid steer like a dozer, where I'll fill the bucket full of material and I'll push the material back and forth to where, like, say I'm trying to like add 2 inches of material, I'll go into the pile and I'll tilt my bucket about 2 inches off the ground and I'll start shoving the pile, and you can kind of see how much material's filtering off the bottom of your bucket and go from there. And then what I also like to do a lot is it gets you really smooth surface, and kind of like if you have any divots or anything like that, like it'll backfill it. I like to take the bucket and go backwards and put it kind of like on a little angle a little bit and drag it back, and as you're going back it'll fill in any like surface areas with holes or anything like that. One of the tricks that I like to apply is like I like to kind of take my piles of material, get it spread everywhere that I think is low or high, and then after I get everything spread, I kind of go through and I'll just grade everything off and kind of just keep working myself back and forth until I match the existing grade that I'm trying to acquire. And a lot of times like it'll just take a ton of practice back and forth. A lot of times when you're first getting a skid steer, everything will be all wavy, and the biggest thing is like to not get too jumpy on your controls. Like just try to keep your bucket level and staying at the same surface, and like if you feel it jump up or jump down, then like you just kind of back up and fix your spot, and then you just keep going forward. The main thing to do is when you're first starting out, just go slow. Depending on how comfortable you are, a lot of skid steers usually will have a foot pedal throttle, or they'll have like a little twist throttle where you can set like how high you want to rev the motor, and that will control how fast you jerk it back and forth. And also a lot of times it'll control like your hydraulic movements, curling your bucket up and down with your boom and stuff like that. So when you're first starting out, just go slow. A lot of times like you'll have to back up and fix your spot and just keep going back and forth. And the biggest thing is just try to keep your material in the areas that you want it to be. Like a lot of times, like if you have a big pile you're pushing, like you'll kind of just make these windrows, so you'll push through the pile, and where the pile pushes off on the sides will kind of it'll be like a barrier for yourself, so you'll just keep working yourself through the pile. I think one of the single most important things to know when running a skid steer is you want to have your boom arms all the way down, and it pretty much cements it to the machine, so that way like when you're grading it makes everything way more stable. So any depth adjustments you want to make, you just curl your bucket up and down. That's one of the biggest thing you'll see is people get a lot of waves, is because they're trying to float it with the arms instead of just using your curl action. One of the main things when you're finished grading is, say you're spreading gravel and stuff, is you just want to make sure that when you're spreading all your material and stuff, and say you're just laying it 2 inches thick, you just want to make sure not to dig real deep, and all of a sudden like you dig down in the clay, and then next thing you know you mix all of your clay and stuff with your gravel, and it kind of contaminates it and it just makes a big mess. So the biggest thing is just really just practicing going back and forth, feather everything in slowly, just in increments, like take down the grade inch by inch until you get it satisfactory where you want to be. But that's really just the basics I could think of today. You could go way in depth with more of a hands-on video, but that's all we got for today. Make sure to like and subscribe and put it in the comments.